Hello and welcome to the BTS Read podcast. I'm your host Naya, and today we'll be talking about 127 Twitter, X-Armies, and just K-pop Twitter in general. And just in case you're wondering why I didn't open with the BTS song instrumental, it's because I think Apple Podcasts flagged me for it last time, so we'll be using royalty-free music from now on, girl. Yes, moving on. Jumping right into it, we're going to talk about 127 Twitter. Anyone who knows me knows that I do not like 127 Twitter. You know how there's a Hot 100 for Billboard? Well, I have my own Hot 100 called the Bane of My Existence Hot 100, and 127 Twitter has remained at the top 3 for at least 3 years straight. So what does that tell you? Like, I won't even call them by the rightful fandom name because they don't deserve it. Moving on. A lot of people have asked me to explain this hatred, so I thought, why don't I give y'all my army villain origin story? Just real quick before I get into, the meat of the episode. Okay, so, once upon a time, there was this bitch named Gorhuk. Literally, just saying the name sent a shiver down my spine. Anyways, Gorhuk was an ex-army, of course, and they unstanned about 2017, 2018. Around the time that they were most active, they were like the #1 destroyer of my army peace. I mean, as most of you know, XOLs used to be like the most notorious antis, but Gorhuk was just different. They were just so hateful. Actually, there's a meme that people still use to this day of one of their tweets going off about armies. And in case you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I'll read it for you.
Armies are so disgusting, boring, idiots, bastards, useless, jerks, impolites, garbages, cumsuckers, pigs, dumbos, asshats, knobheads, lame brains, dickheads, clowns, nerds, morons. I fucking hate y'all.
And scene. Don't you just love poetry? Anyways, they were part of that first wave when being an ex-army was your personality trait. Not just being an anti, but being an ex-army turned anti. That is what determined your cool status. It's what made people feel like they were important and special and different and whatnot. Because that's really what it boils down to. When standing BTS made them feel special, that's what they did. And then now that it doesn't, they don't. And honestly, that's one of the main catalysts of their obsession with BTS, but I'll get into that later. Actually, fun fact, having to look up that meme, I had to search the old account of theirs. They've moved to a new account, and I won't expose them because I'm not trying to be a horrible person. But as recently as yesterday, literally yesterday, they got a curious cat that said, "You talk more about BTS and armies than you do BT." So 3 years later, and they are still obsessed. And that is what I like to call the ex-army syndrome. The peak or the emergence of the ex-army syndrome started around the DNA shift. And when I say DNA shift, I'm talking about how back in 2017, when DNA dropped, there was a shift in the way everyone kind of treated BTS. Hating BTS was always a petty sport for some, but after DNA, that shit went Olympic Games level. Hating BTS became an initiation process for, being accepted within the K-pop community. Even though BTS gained, tons of fans that era, there was plenty of people who had claimed that they were fans, but completely turned on them. A complete 180. It was actually quite fascinating to watch in real time. Because the thing is, a lot of these ex-armies were only introduced to K-pop through BTS. So, to watch them turn on the same people that they were saying saved their lives not a week beforehand for some Twitter validation was just, it was something else, girl. These people went from writing sonnets in BTS's mentions under every post to shitting on them any chance that they got in the span of a week. And then they always made a big deal about unstanding too. It always sounded like a sermon or some shit. Dramatic as fuck for no reason. You're going to hell, so spare us the testimonial. And the absolute funniest part is that all of them went on to stand groups that were similar as possible to pre-Love Yourself era BTS. But they still weren't satisfied enough to keep BTS out their mouth. And that's because at the end of the day, they still care about BTS. That's why they stay updated. That's why they stay having a hot take for everything that they do. It's because they still care. When they come on the TL to slander BTS, I really just have to laugh because they say BTS are talentless, but are the first ones to try for concert tickets or the first ones to watch their, overseas performances. They say that their music sucks, but as we saw last year, BTS was at the top of their most streamed artist list on their year-end Spotify Wrapped. So there's inconsistencies, girl. Someone's lying. Anyways, back to 127 Twitter. That entire fandom is majority bitter-ass ex-armies who hate the fact that BTS are happy and they're not. That's why so many of them left during DNA, because that was the start of the Love Yourself era. And actually, I'll get into why so many people hate that era and why K-pop Twitter literally lost their shit and all sense of morality once it started to take off. But that'll be later on. Anyhow, that pretty much sums up my beef with 127 Twitter. Now, let's connect this to something more recent. A few days ago, there were 2 instances in which K-pop stans lost their shit. One was specifically 127 Twitter, so we'll talk about that one first. The other day, the producer of Jungkook's solo My Time, Sleepy D's, was talking to a colleague, and he was just saying that he thinks BTS are phenomenal and exceptional, and of course, K-pop Twitter lost their shit, as if praising BTS is equivalent to putting everyone else down, but I digress. Actually, I don't digress, because the thing is, they're projecting. Because when they praise their group, it's only to shit on another group, and that group is usually BTS. But just because that's what you mean when you do that, doesn't mean that's what everyone else does when they're doing it for BTS. Now, granted, there are some of us who believe that BTS are better. All the power to you. Do what you gotta do. But majority, especially innocent casual listeners who just so happen to like BTS a lot, like the producer, are usually just minding their own business and giving their opinion. But, of course, K-pop fans take that personally. So, basically, they were accusing him of, hating everyone else. And he was just like, no. But regardless of him clarifying that, they still camped in his mentions, basically trying to bully him. However, what they weren't prepared for was for him to start checking people. I mean, he was tearing them the hell up. Like, they were being tore up from the floor up. He was literally putting people in body bags. And they were getting pissed because ARMYs found that shit funny. But, of course we did. What the fuck else are we supposed to do? Defend y'all? Over my dead ARMY body. You can kiss my ARMY ass. And the other event was Tiger JK posting a screenshot of an article from The Economist, essentially just saying that BTS is different. And they are different, or else everyone else would be in their position, but anyways. And it also said that BTS produced their own music and etc. Basically everything we say, just said in an article. And it's something that he's been saying ever since he basically adopted Namjoon all those fucking years ago. So he posted the screenshot because he was proud, and K-pop fans literally harassed him into apologizing. And that pissed the ARMY and me the hell off, because you not finna bully my father-in-law. I'm just fucking with you. Anyway. But for real, you're not finna bully the man Namjoon calls father. You just not finna do that simply because you lose your goddamn rabbit-ass minds whenever someone praises BTS. It happened with Sayotaji, it happened with Sunmi, it happened with Tiger JK, it happened with Eric Nam, it happened with Jihyo from Twice. It's just an ongoing thing. And it's always respect the seniors until it's somebody that's praising BTS. Hell, until it's BTS themselves. BTS are seniors. They're 7 years into the fucking game, so why doesn't that ever apply to them? And that brings us to K-pop as a whole. Their hatred for BTS transcends all morals and common sense, really. The quickness in which they like to harass and shut down actual Koreans that congratulate or find pride in BTS is extremely concerning, but that's a conversation for an entirely different episode. But back to what I was saying before. I'm so ready to get into this conversation because this obsession that they have with BTS, this hyper-focused hatred that they have, stems from their insecurities and then the projection of that. And I'm bringing it right back around to the Love Yourself era, because the reason people hated that era so fucking much is because they're miserable. They hate that BTS call you in and not call you out. They lived for when BTS, were not at peace with themselves. I mean, there's nothing inherently wrong with having gone through that phase of feeling lost and spiritual unrest, but that doesn't mean you have to dwell in it. And that's exactly what BTS didn't do with Love Yourself. They wanted better for themselves because they knew they deserved better. And all they wanted to do was bring everyone else along on the journey. And people hate them for it, because they force you to look within yourself and to acknowledge that, damn, I'm not happy. I'm hurt, and I hurt other people as a result. And because BTS wants you to be better so that you can do better, people lash out. They don't want to get better. They want to stay in that self-destructive mindset, and so they're pissed at BTS for growing. They resent BTS for being as human as they are and for displaying their insecurities. The allure of K-pop was that these idols were larger than life, perfect and untouchable, but BTS pulled back that curtain on all that and were like, we're not perfect. I struggle just as much as you do, and I'm human. And that irritates K-pop stans because it disillusions them and prevents them from being able to use K-pop as an escapism. I mean, I distinctly remember when I first got into BTS, I was following an auntie, even though I didn't know it at the time, and they were asked about why they hate BTS, and their response, I kid you not, was that BTS was too deep. They said that nobody wanted to be deep all the time, and that sometimes people just want to dance to stupid lyrics and a good beat. And I mean, to each their own, but also, what? Like, you hate them because they make you think? You hate them because they make you reflect? I was like, okay, that really sounds like a you problem, but what do I know? These K-pop stans get into K-pop because they can live vicariously through these larger-than-life idols. But BTS being so honest upsets them deeply because they feel like, well, if you're no better than I am, why are you successful? Why are you happy? I mean, how many tweets in the last week have you seen of people saying that they blame BTS for making everybody serious and relatable? That they hate the new age K-pop because everybody wants to be self-aware and give social commentary, and that they just want to listen to something upbeat. They're not trying to hear about being happy or making yourself grow as a human because they don't want to grow. And if they can't grow, they don't want anyone else to grow. That's why they're so quick to bring up BTS's past, even though BTS are one of the few groups to have collectively changed. And I don't mean like apologizing and then doing it again a few months later. I mean like actively changing and actively learning. Yes, they've made mistakes sometimes, and they probably will make many more, but they're trying. They're still trying to be better, and that's what matters, because actions speak louder than words. You can say you're sorry 1,000 times and never mean a single one. But if you change your actions and are actively trying to do better, that's you growing, you know? But that's why K-pop stans harp so much on their past, because they don't want to acknowledge their growth. If they can't grow, no one else can, and especially not BTS. And at the end of the day, I just really feel sorry for them. Because the journey BTS has taken me on, the journey that they've been on, has just been so beautiful. Watching them become the people that they are now from the people that they used to be was truly an honor. This whole path has been more than therapeutic, and I owe them more than I can put into words, to be quite honest with you. The fact people purposely deny themselves of this healing is just really sad to me. Like, fan wars and K-pop aside, why would you deny yourself this? Why would you deny yourself something like that? It'll just never make sense to me. Anywho, I'm going to end the episode there because I believe I've talked long enough and editing this is going to be hell. But thank you for listening, and I hope you guys join me again for next week's episode.